you're anything like me, then you have some very awesome, fond memories of important times and places in your life that you don't have a lot of actual pictures of because you were A, too busy living those moments, or possibly B, we're old enough that those were a time when you didn't carry around a really awesome camera in your pocket at all times. Which brings me to the commission I'm working on today. The client wants a pen and ink illustration of a very important time in her parents' lives for their anniversary. If you've seen any of my previous art vlogs, welcome back. And if you haven't and you're new here, what I do is sort of a time-lapsed speed paint of whatever commission or piece that I'm currently working on, and then sort of a overlay where I talk about the behind-the-scenes aspects as the artist. So if you're interested in that, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications down below when I upload a new video. As I said, this is a gift from my client to her parents on their anniversary, so it includes several very important personal details. That's what I love as an artist when I'm doing a commission like this that is a gift for someone to give away, because I feel like it's such a personal and awesome item that is so one of a kind. It's not like any other gift that anyone's ever gonna get because every piece is unique. A particularly interesting coincidence of this piece is that both the client and her parents all live in Ohio, but the scene of this illustration is the Cathedral of Learning here in Pittsburgh, where I live. So let's just get started. This commission is for a pen and ink illustration, so the materials are pretty straightforward and easy to find. I'm starting with this 11 by 14 pad of Bristol board, which I use pretty regularly for a wide variety of different projects. The paper is double-sided, so one side is a little bit rougher with a little more texture, and I'll use that typically for something like a watercolor piece to get that nice artistic, very detailed, textured feel. But the other side is smoother, and I use that more for colored pencil, which doesn't usually react well to texture, or in a case like this, pen and ink, where I want something very smooth and crisp. Of course, I'm using a pencil for my initial sketch, and I gravitate towards mechanical pencils. I know that's not very common in the art world, but I like that I constantly have a very nice, precise edge. And then for the actual illustration, I'm using my go-to Sharpie pens. I also like to use my phone for reference photos that a client sends me. It's really easy to zoom in and out. If I print something out, obviously you can't do that, and then you're stuck with the quality of the print, whereas if I use the picture directly on my phone, I can control the detail, I can edit the contrast or something, I can get a lot of detail at different levels very easily by using my phone very quickly. Normally my commissions have an emphasis on people and/or animals and landscapes. I don't draw a lot of buildings, but since this has such a very architectural emphasis, I am using my ruler, and I'm using a long metal one because it's such a large piece. A lot of my commissions involve combining a lot of different elements from different pictures into one composition, which is definitely a challenge. I have to deal with a lot of different perspectives and light sources and shadings and try to combine everything in a way that makes sense visually. This piece is no different. I have to combine a very large building and two little people in a way that makes sense for everything, and they all make sense together. So in this case, I've decided to have the two figures sort of in the foreground, and you're sort of looking up towards the building in the distance so that you will get the majority of the building in the background and have that be identifiable, but the people are going to be a large enough portion of the illustration so that they read as an important part of the composition. So I started my sketch by placing the two figures in the foreground so I could have a lot of control over how big they got over the overall page, and I also decided to crop them a little bit so that they could get just that much bigger and be that much more identifiable. Next, I started roughing in a sketch of the building. This exact angle of the people to the building may not be possible in real life, but that's the beauty of art. You can get across something that feels realistic and believable, even if it's not exactly 100% true to life. That's great for a piece like this, where you're definitely trying to get across more of an emotion and a feeling than an exact representation of a specific moment. Once I had the basic composition sketched in with the figures and the building, I sent a picture of that off to the client for approval and tweaks. I personally don't do a lot of very stiff architectural type drawings. My personal style definitely tends to be a little more flowy and loose. So even though I'm using a ruler to get very straight edges, I'm making those lines dotted or hatched or broken so that they'll feel a little more soft, and that's a little more my style, but also with atmospheric perspective, having the building so far behind the figures, that will help add a little bit of depth to the illustration and help the building read as a large object. Then I used a variety of hatch and cross-hatching and stippling techniques to give the building that geometric, harsh sort of feeling, not so organic and natural, but that way I could get a differentiation between different shaded areas and different planes of the building. Once I got a little ways into the building, I'd established a nice sort of set of rules for how the shading of it was going to work, and then it definitely picked up the pace, and I was able to use those rules to establish the rest of the building. I made the choice to work with the building first, because with pen and ink, it's definitely easier to add than take away. So I didn't want to get the building super finely detailed and illustrated and rendered and then add the people and find out that I couldn't get the contrast level that I wanted in the people. So I definitely wanted to get a very lightly rendered building done first, because I could always go back and add if I wanted to later. The building and location are obviously a very important and personal detail and aspect of this illustration, but at its heart, it's about the couple. So while I wanted the building to be identifiable and nicely drawn and rendered, I definitely wanted to keep the focus on the two figures in the foreground. Because of all of this, I decided to go with a bit of a vignette composition and have some of the edges fade and fog out naturally. And I did use some very similar shading techniques as I had in the building so that they would tie together nicely, but because they are closer to you and with perspective being the way it is, they are allowed to have a little more contrast and detail, so I gave myself the opportunity to have some more solid lines and some overall darker areas. Another heavily stressed and important personal detail of this picture is the takeout bag from his favorite sandwich shop at the time. Then I just added a few suggestions of clouds in the sky to sort of complete the scene, and we are finished. If you found this interesting and inspiring, I hope you will like the video and be sure to subscribe for more art vlogs and DIYs in the near future. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.